Good evening and welcome. It says I'm live. I'm just checking. I'll give it a couple of seconds to come through, hopefully. So I'm live on Facebook in my business account, and I'm going over to YouTube at the same time to see if we're live on YouTube. And we're over on YouTube as well, live. So I'm live on Facebook in my business account, and so what I'm doing tonight, I'm doing something slightly different tonight. I want to address a number of issues regarding dog training, and I'd like to ask people what I'm doing tonight. I'm doing something slightly different tonight. A number of questions, and sorry for just waffling a little bit. I'm setting this up to run on YouTube, Facebook, and Vimeo, and it'll then go over to my Patreon account. And so the questions will be coming in from 3 different directions tonight. So I've started early on purpose to set this up, and I want a good connection, and I want to just check it's all working before we actually go live. We're not supposed to be live until 8 o'clock, but I wanted to address a number of issues before answering questions. A lot of people ask me to answer questions for them, and I don't mind answering questions, and that's what we normally do on a Wednesday night. But tonight we're having a different forum because I want to reach a number of different people out there. I want to reach the haters as well as the people who support me. And so I'm not going to get into a bitch fight with anybody on here. I'm going to say my piece. I'm going to stand by what I say. And if it upsets people, it upsets people. But I believe that these issues need to be addressed. For 10 years, I put up a YouTube site, and I think it's been up for about 7 years. Before that, I was on Facebook, and I was showing people how to train dogs to a high level of a good standard. And I've had 30 years experience, and I moved away from the trialing world because of the corruption down in the southwest, but I continued helping people train gun dogs. That was my passion. That was my desire. That's what I enjoyed so much, helping people, winning with competition dogs, and helping people achieve a standard that they would never dream of. And I've done that, and I've put the hard work in, and I've learned how to train dogs to a very high level. I've won in competition, and I feel that it needs to come from someone who's not been in the game for 5 minutes. So with 30 years experience and 30 years under the bridge that I've put into gun dog training and helping others, because I moved away from the trialing world and was helping shooting people with their dogs and trialing people train their dogs at one point, my business mainly went over to helping shooting people, helping people who have got a gun dog, either lives in the house or they keep it in a kennel and they take it out for the weekend and they shoot over it. And I started getting a following, a strong following. I am going to read your questions in a bit, but at the moment I just want to explain a few things to people who are thinking, what the hell is this bloke come on the internet for and speaking in public? It's because I normally keep it to YouTube, and when we keep it to YouTube we get like 70 followers, and then we get probably 600-700 views in the month of that video. In this situation, we're reaching out to far more people. We're reaching out to friends and family, as well as clients, as well as people who've trialed with me in competition with me. They'll know that I used to produce well-trained dogs that were winning competition and were in the awards on a regular basis. And that was my shop window to show the quality of my work. But then once I went in the direction of helping shooting people with their dogs, the standard didn't need to be as high, but I maintained the standards myself because I want to adhere to the standards that I believe in. When I first started trialing some 30 odd years back, it was a completely different world than it is now. There were some really hard-headed dogs out there on the trial circuit that the hunting was the be-all and end-all, and retrieving was secondary. So the best dog on the day was a hunting dog. The retrieving had to be done, but it could be sloppy. It didn't have to be so good. And at the end of the day, I didn't like some of the dogs I saw with the snatching birds and dogs dropping birds in front of the judges, and the handler having to go over and pick them up off the floor. And I think over a 10-year period, I think the standard got better and better. So that's going back 20 years. And I used to hang around with a lot of trial people, some great people as well, still out there doing it. And I'm not anti-trial, I'm anti-cheat, I'm anti-corruption, I'm anti-lies. You know, they can condemn you if you fall out with one of these A-panel judges. They can go after you in such a way that they'll ruin your trial career overnight. And that's what they try to do if you start to become too popular, you become too successful. Now, not everybody's like that. There are some wonderful, wonderful people out there in the trial world. And I've got some great friends out there that I recommend, and they've won on merit for the dogs they've trained, not the dogs they've bought in. But unfortunately, I've moved, well, in a way, unfortunately, I've moved away from the trial world, and I've become an internet trainer, teaching people on the internet how to train their dogs, and obviously training dogs when people come to me, clients come to me. And the stories that people tell me is phenomenal. You would not believe that some of the stories about some of these film stars, some of these so-called dog trainers that are up there winning on a regular basis, the stories I get told. And I'm not going to drop names. I don't need to drop names. All I need to do is be honest and open. No one is talking about discipline. I've been talking about discipline for the last 10 years, that training a gun dog is 95% fun-based training, but 5% discipline. It's knowing how to use the discipline and when to use the discipline. But unfortunately, today's society is going down the road of we can train dogs with love and affection and treats and a clicker. And if you're training a dog any other way than that, you're an evil villain and you shouldn't be teaching people. Now, I will stand up and defend the fact that anybody who uses cruelty, I don't mind saying that is totally unacceptable, that is wrong. But if you stand up and actually do that, and people don't put those videos up very often, what happens is they do it behind closed doors. And over the years, you've had just to walk away, say something to them and walk away. As soon as you say something to them, especially if they're higher up in the ranks with the panel judge, if they're panel judges or anything like that, and you said anything to them, you would be condemned and sent to the outer limits of outer space. You would never, ever get back on the trialing circuit, because the rumors that would go around would spread the shit about you. And at the end of the day, if you see something that's not acceptable, you should have a right to say, hang on, that's too harsh, that's not acceptable. You can't hang dogs from trees. You can't beat dogs with pieces of wood or alkathene pipes. It's not acceptable. Now, I'm not saying that all trial people do that, but over the years, I've seen some of the top people using corrections that is inhumane. Inhumane, simple as that. Now, the reason that I went on the internet to talk about discipline 10 years ago and talk about corrections and how to give corrections is because it's not out there. It's not out there. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And all my friends, most of them said, don't go there, Chris. They'll hang you. They'll hang you. They'll hang you out to dry. And this is the problem why the dog training world is in such a mess. No one had the bottle to stand up and explain how we use correction and how it works in a fantastic way if used sparingly, like any other tool out there on the market. We use so many different methods of training and getting the best out of the dog, and each dog's individual, the same as each client when they come here. I have to get the best out of the client. Sometimes you can put pressure on them. Sometimes you've got to mollycoddle them. Sometimes you've got to nurture them. Sometimes you've got to be direct with them. And at the end of the day, each client and each dog is different. So that's why the book that I've been writing has been so difficult, because it's a never ever changing circle with the environment that we're in the dog training world. If we talked about the old methods of training, old school, some people call it, some of those old school methods work fantastic and they're still relevant to this day. But we've moved forward with dog training for the better in some ways. But what my argument is if you can't talk about correction and you're going to get nailed because you talk about correction or discipline with a dog, then how the hell can we put it across to people in the right way and educate and teach people that that's too excessive or that's just right? And each dog's different. Like I keep saying, it's not the easiest job in the world to get across to the media, but the media are being sold a pack of lies by these people like Victoria Stilwell, Zach George, these trainers. The Kennel Club are a disgrace. The Kennel Club do not want to talk about it, and yet will slag anybody off who tries to express that discipline is part and parcel of dog training, correction, obedience. Now, when I first started, obedience training was the way to go with dogs. It was all about obedience from the start. Suppress the behaviors, and then when the dog gets on the chute, it'll behave itself because you've suppressed it and you've trained it to that level. Then they started realizing that with gameplay and fun element, you keep the drive, you keep the desire. You have a dog that wants to play the game. And that's what's important to me. It's really important to me that we educate. And so what happened is I was on Facebook and I put up a couple of videos where someone was asking me that their dog was moving off the spot when told to sit and moving into them. And I said, I've got a young dog here that I'm training for a customer. I bred it and he's 13 months old. I think he was 13 months old at the time, called Storm. And I said, I will put the video up and show you what to do. And I put the whole video up, and the whole video is about 9 minutes long. And it shows the dog creeping in and me correcting the dog and putting it back on the spot and smacking the backside. That created an internet storm, because what the fluffy, positive only trainers did, they got on the bandwagon and they said that is abuse, picking a dog up by the ears and swinging it around. I agree. That is abuse if you're picking the dog up and swinging it around by the ears. But at no point did I swing a dog round by its ears. So they got a bit of fame and they got a little bit of following, or massive amount of following. And this one particular woman in Scotland went out of her way to destroy my life and my business. And I had a 7-year battle with this woman on the internet. And so many of you know about this. But the people who have come on recently may not know this. It took 7 years to clear my name, and I've never been prosecuted of any animal cruelty in my life. I've been investigated with allegations made against me, but I can hold my head up high and say in 30 years of training and working with gun dogs and giving discipline, correction, and teaching gameplay, putting my head above the parapet and speaking about the subject where others fear to speak about it, I have got no convictions against me. So if I'm lying, I challenge anybody to prove that I'm lying, because I'm not lying. It's as simple as that. And so what I'm saying is, the reason that I'm coming into this, and we've come in early before answering any questions and going back over to YouTube, I want to put a platform out there and say to people that because of the hatred and the bad publicity I got, I searched and searched and searched for a 5-year period of looking for a better way to train dogs than I was training dogs, because I'm a caring person and I don't like bad publicity. People say there's no such thing as bad publicity. Trust me, when it's happening and you see your wife fall into pieces because she's not very strong and she thinks the world's going to end, then you're having to support her and you're having to fight for your fight. You're having to stand up and fight for what you believe in. And that's what I did. And by doing that, we won the court cases. They reported me to the RSPCA. The RSPCA investigated it. No charges were brought. No court case was brought. They said, in the interest of the public, it wasn't in public interest. What the hell does that mean? If I was being cruel to a dog, I was being cruel to a dog. Take me to court. That's what I said to them. Don't feed bullshit and write a letter to me saying that I should seek positive and positive only trainers or a dog behaviorist. Absolute load of rubbish, right? What is a dog behaviorist? Someone who studies dogs. That's what I've done. I've studied dogs for 30 years and I've studied people as well. The amount of times that I've said to people, hang on, you're being too hard on the dog, lighten up, play a game with the dog. You'll get more out of the dog for playing a game with the dog. And then on certain occasions, I would say to someone, hang on, you're being so soft on that dog. That dog is ruling your life. There's a balance between when to give discipline and how to give discipline. And if we do not talk about it, and that's the problem, no one in the last 30 years has really wanted to talk about it. And I take my hats off to the Americans, the American trainers, not just gun dog trainers, but dog trainers who talk about the subject of discipline and corrections, where in this country, we have caused this problem on ourselves because we're scared to come forward because of the backlash from these haters out there. That's what I'm coming public about. And that's why I want to put this out in a sensible manner. I want to put it out. I'm getting older. I'm getting wiser. Years ago, if you wanted to argue with me, I'd argue back with him. If you wanted to shout at me, I'd shout back at you. As I've grown older, I've become more of a diplomat. And I don't know if that's a good thing, to be honest with you, because sometimes a straight answer to someone's face, you get the point across straight away. But I believe that we can't beat about the bush and pretend that we don't use discipline and correction when we know we do. And I would honestly say, and people can argue on this and they can write comments, can't they? I would honestly say that 95% of dog trainers in the trial world use discipline and correction when they need to. I would say 20% of them are cruel and abusive towards dogs, and they treat them like cattle, like fodder. Like, I want to win with you. If you're not good enough, then you're down the road. Move them on. The amount of wonderful people that I've met in the gun dog world, coming from the shooting side of the world, they buy a dog, they're not going to get rid of it under any circumstances, and the dog is playing them up, and it's not good genetics, it's not good breeding. Oh, guess what? We turn that dog into the best we can with the help of me as a professional trainer who can read problems, read the situation, and help the handler. Now, I'm asking you people to write comments if you've been with me training and you've seen an improvement in your dog, or the videos have helped you. So because of the hatred on Facebook and the way I was attacked on Facebook, I decided to put my head above the parapet when my wife was in tears, crying her eyes out, saying, please don't go there, don't go there. I said, we've got nothing to lose. They've wiped out my business. My credit was terrible with the banks because we got into trouble with money. And at the end of the day, I had no choice other than to fight back. So I put my head above the parapet and I went onto the YouTube and started putting up videos on how I train dogs. Not the glossy side, not lying to people and misleading people, but showing people that with correction and discipline, you can train a dog far better than love and affection and treats and a clicker, right? And I challenged people out there, and I was quite assertive, and I put myself out there to say, bring it on, show me what you've got. And guess what? Not one person came forward in the balance world to say to me, listen, Chris, look at this, and I'll show you how to train dogs in such a better way than you do. I've watched your videos, and although I think you're a decent bloke, I think you're not approaching the subject in the right way. I had many wafflers that would contact me and say, listen, I can do it with all love and affection. I can make a dog park its backside without giving it any force. Well, so can I. But at the end of the day, they're not putting dogs under the situation that we put dogs under. And anybody in the gun dog world knows that we're going to put those dogs under extreme conditions. And if you haven't trained them right, you may be all right in the backfield, throwing a few dummies and making the dog sit. It may look lovely, but the wheels will fall off if you haven't trained the dog right in the first place. So not only were I putting up videos of my dogs working in the field to a very high standard, I was putting up training videos to show you how to get dogs to that standard. And I was taking clients' dogs, and then all of a sudden clients started coming on board and saying, I love your method of training. I love the fact you're totally honest with everybody. You can put my videos up of me training with you if you like. And that's what we started doing. And within 5 years of YouTube, we had over 3.5 million views and 7,000 subscribers. No gun dog trainer in the country had done that. There's some dog trainers out there with big followings, but dog training world is a lot bigger than the gun dog world. And yet we interact because when I was looking for a better way to train, I didn't just look at gun dog trainers because no one was out there giving that information except in America. And the standard and the training in America is completely different here. And it's not something that I would promote in a big way in some areas of their training. But in other ways, I enjoyed their honesty and their integrity, that they put their work up, and then you could make your own judgment. The thing is, with this country, we haven't got anybody in the film stars in the gun dog world coming forward and being honest. They make a glossy video. They put a video up and show you the video of how they train a dog in stages, but they don't show you the problems. They don't show you how they get over the problems. Now, I've been doing this so long. The amount of people come to me with dogs that have got problems because of other people's influence and what they've told them. I have to unscramble all that, unscramble the dog and unscramble the client and rebuild. And that's where my videos started to take off, and we had a real massive following. Now, a jealous dog trainer, Peter Kane in America, who used to promote me and actually say this guy can train dogs, got very jealous when he started seeing me climb up the list of followers on the dog training world. And I'm not just followed by the gun dog world, I'm followed by all sorts of people in the dog training world. And I support other people in the dog training world because I believe that the people who use discipline but use it in the correct manner, we should stick together and we should become a force to be reckoned with. But while we are all squabbling on the internet saying, I don't like his methods, I don't like his methods, I'm not following him, I've fallen out with him. At the end of the day, debate is good. Debate moves things forward, and that's what we've got. We've got a media platform now where we should be able to move it forward. And we should be able to promote trainers that you like. And that's the way we move forward, not by slagging off the trainers we don't like, because that just becomes a bitch fight between all of us. There's plenty of trainers out there that I don't particularly like, but I don't slag them off unless they come after me. That's a different kettle of fish. If another trainer is going after you, I believe you have every right to fight back or deal with it the way you see fit. Let's just take that Dale McCluskey, for instance. Video after video after video. In some of the stuff he talks about, he talks sense. He's actually got the picture. In other things, he's doing it to create views for himself. If that's what you've got to do to sell yourself, I pity you. I pity you. If you've got to slag off other trainers to sell yourself out there on the internet, I pity you, because I've watched so many live feeds in the last few weeks about dog training, about talking about dog training, and decent dog trainers talking about discipline and correction. And I back them. I stand with them. It doesn't mean we agree with everything we do. You don't need to agree with everything we do. And that's important, everyone. You've got to understand that we can have differences, but we can debate in a rational manner without threatening each other. And the problem is, the positive only gangs are standing together because they've got no idea about training, where a lot of us have got experience in our own areas, in our own expertise, as in some people deal with aggression, some people deal with competition, some people agility, some people obedience. And at the end of the day, I'm a competition trainer going back, but now I train people to have a wonderful time in the field with their dogs. I have to treat things slightly different. They don't want the drive that I want. They don't want the desire that I want. Some of them do, but the majority of them just want a nice little steady dog out in the field. Do I suppress the dog so the dog's got no drive and no desire? No, I still get the best out of the dog, but I tap into the person to get the best out of the dog and the person working as a team. And that's what I think we need to do, because you've got your positive only movement who they won't slag off Victoria Stilwell, and yet she's crap. She's absolutely terrible. And you can say, hang on, Chris, you said you don't want to go after trainers. No, I'm talking about an issue that she's one of the biggest gobshites on the internet, selling a false ideology. And a lot of positive people don't like that woman. There's some good positive trainers out there who use clickers and treats, and they've got far better understanding than Victoria Stilwell. But she's the poster girl for the positive movement. Trust me, she's not liked in all circles. But at the end of the day, she is pushing an agenda, and they're going with her. They're going with her because they don't want to be seen going against her. And this is the problem, what's happening in this country. We've got trainers not willing to stand up through fear of losing business, and yet will give discipline on the quiet in a lesson and put an e-collar on a dog or put a correction into a dog, but say, for God's sake, don't say nothing. Don't tell anyone we've been doing that. I get people here telling me these things and actually naming these people, but I don't name them because I'm not there to promote myself by naming other trainers. But it's amazing. If I showed you a graph of how many of those trainers people have been to, it's the same 6 or 7 trainers that the same people are talking about up and down the country, because they've gone there and they've not liked what they see. You don't have to like what you see to get results, but if you don't like it, don't do it. It's as simple as that. If you watch my videos and you don't like my way of training, I say stop watching my videos. It's as simple as that. I talk about correction. I used correction. Now I want to talk about the e-collar, and in the UK, this is a subject that will get you thrown under the bus. It's a subject that will get you thrown under the bus because no one wants to talk about it, and yet so many people have got it. We're going to lose it. We're going to lose it. It's as simple as that. We're going to lose it because we can't stick together and come together and support a trainer that's got the balls to put his head above the parapet and say, okay, let's debate it. Let's debate it before it's too late. Let's talk about corrections and when to use corrections, how to use corrections, and let's show our work. Now, I've had 5,500 videos wiped off the internet by lies from a fellow dog trainer, Peter Kane, of what he said to YouTube, that he said I was using copyright, and it was not using copyright. I was sharing his videos because he shared some of my videos, and I said to him, thanks for doing that. I'm going to put up some videos about you. And then he's become so big-headed because of the money he's pulling in on YouTube. If you watch some of these YouTube channels where these people are saying, I'm giving it you for free, I'm giving it you for free, you may be getting it for free, but guess what? They're getting paid through the adverts. And if you look at their channel, some of these guys, they got a 20-30 minute video up and there's 10-15 adverts on that. They can decide how many adverts they want to put on. Guess what? I switch off sometimes from those people because I don't want to listen to crappy adverts. I want to listen and debate about Gundog training, about dog training, about using the tools that work. And I can tell you, only 2.5 years ago, I was dead against the e-collar. Didn't used to talk about it too much, but I was dead against the e-collar because going back 20 years, I saw people abusing dogs with the e-collar. They were like a brick. Their battery pack in them, they used to have to carry. They were not the technology of what they are today, and people did not know how to use them properly. And people were frying dogs, and dogs were being mentally messed up because of it. And I saw it, and so I had the decency to pull away from all that. I never did it myself. I'm not trying to make excuses. I watched other people, and if it worked and I'd seen results, I would think I would have used it. I'm not against it in that way, but the results I saw, and the dogs messed up mentally because of that e-collar. For 10 years, 15 years, I was anti e-collar. Every time I watched a video about e-collar, I used to switch off from it. And then along comes Larry Crone, and I started watching his videos about e-collar, and he was training his dog training dogs on his drive with a long line and the e-collar and food and using place boards. And I didn't like everything he did, but I loved his method of getting the dog to understand what the e-collar was in a nice, gentle, kind way. And I started watching him, and I could see he was getting results. And so I started following him more. And then I started looking at other trainers. I started looking at other trainers who were talking about the e-collar, and I studied and studied and studied. And that way, I started to educate myself and see that previously 15 years ago, the e-collar was a barbaric, horrible tool. No different than a choke chain, in my opinion. A choke chain can cause damage to a dog. But I think 5 years ago they were still using choke chains. I don't know if they've banned them or people have moved away from choke chains. Some people are against slip leads because you can choke a dog on a slip lead. Well, you can choke a dog on anything, can't you? At the end of the day, I use slip leads because I use working dogs and I want to slip the lead to cast them off. I don't want them wearing a collar, a flat buckle collar. So there's a reason why I use slip leads on dogs, and I don't wear collars on dogs when they're hunting in thick cover, or even when I'm out with them on a normal basis, because my dogs don't walk on the pavements and in public places. If your dog walks on the pavements in public places, technically they're supposed to have a flat buckle collar in this country and a name tag and an address on there, so the rescue, and they're supposed to be microchipped and everything. But my dogs, they get into the car and we go off to where we go in training, and we don't go into public places. And so that's the reason I use slip leads on my dogs. And half the time I don't even use a lead because the dogs will listen to me 100% because I've trained them that way. So going back to the e-collar, after watching, I bought an e-collar and I started using it in exactly the same way as Larry Groom had actually shown on the videos. And then I was using food as well. Then I started to wean the dogs off the food and educate them slightly different than Larry, and change my method slightly different than Larry, but still leaving that foundation that Larry had shown me and using the bits I wanted to use out of it and coming up with my own way of using an e-collar. And I don't want to teach sit with an e-collar. I don't want to punish all the time with an e-collar. I don't want to punish a dog for counter surfing with an e-collar. I don't want to punish a dog for a number of reasons with an e-collar. I don't want to. I want the dog, it to be personal coming from me if I'm going to. But I'm using the e-collar as gameplay to begin with. I'm teaching that dog, no different than my tennis racket game with the tennis ball. You've got trainers out there saying you shouldn't be training a dog with a tennis racket and tennis ball. Guess what? It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. And so many people have got on board and used it and realized how that dog loves gameplay. Now, how did I come across that? I didn't invent it. I was on the beach one day and saw dogs running out chasing the ball. I think they were collies. I'd never seen such drive. It was wonderful to watch. And they were doing it with a tennis racket to get the dog out further. And the dogs loved the gameplay. So did I steal it? Well, I copied it. I took it back home and used it. And it works fantastic. And it's unbelievably good, simple training tool. Then I wanted to have a leash that would break down in two parts, so I can hold a dog back on a long line and then break it down into a smaller line. So along comes Ray Townsend, and we start to make these leads, and these leads started selling like crazy. Did I invent the lead? No, but I invented a lead that would help Gundog people understand how to break down the training in sequences to get the dog to listen to you. Once you've got the dog listening to you close in, you can start letting the dog go further and further out. And that's what it's about. It's about educating people. And all of a sudden, people started coming in and ordering the leads and getting success with their dogs and sending me videos. And they started coming here and learning how to train a dog to a good level. Then along comes Jules, and Jules starts making squirrel skins. Because at the end of the day, we'd made rabbit skins. I showed people how to make rabbit skin dummies and squirrel skin dummies. And a mate of mine showed me squirrels how to peel back a squirrel skin years and years ago, because they're tough as old boots. There's no fat on, there's no meat on them. And I realized they lasted quite a while, even without like preparing them. Just put them straight on a dummy, put them in the freezer, and they lasted quite a while. They outlasted a rabbit skin by far. Then all of a sudden, Jules comes along, and he starts making them for me and sending them to me for no charge at all. So we started giving them out for competitions, and we started letting people have them when they came here. And the dogs loved the gameplay. They loved the squirrel skins. And I wasn't lying to people on the internet. I was showing 100% the way I train dogs. And I was talking about discipline. I was talking about correction. And so then I started talking about the e-collar. And some people would say, why do you need an e-collar if you train dogs for 25 years to such a great standard? And Now you're using an e-collar. Only trainers who can't train dogs use e-collars. Well, I'll tell you, I totally disagree with you. I totally disagree with you because there's plenty of top quality trainers out there who use e-collars and get far better results than using discipline through the hands to the dog. As simple as that. I can tell you that. For controlling a dog at a distance, there's no finer tool out there on the market. And I can train a dog without an e-collar, but trust me, an e-collar is a far kinder, fairer way. Now, do I want to train a dog to jump in the car with an e-collar? Can I? Yes, I can. Do I want to? No, I don't. This is important. But do I rubbish trainers that do? That's up to them. If you go to a trainer and everything he teaches is through the e-collar and you're happy, then fine. But if you go to a trainer and all he knows is e-collar training, go and find another trainer, in my opinion. Especially if you find your dog is sullen, dropped its head, doesn't want to leave your side, and is frightened to do anything. Because the one thing people cannot accuse me of is destroying drive. I promote drive. I promote desire in dogs, and I get the best out of the dog because of that. So I want people tonight who've supported me to come out and actually make a comment on one of the forums, and I'm going to collect those comments, and we're actually sending them to the government and the Kennel Club, and we're actually building a support unit for people who are being attacked by the positive and positive only gangs. And we're going to highlight these people. We're going to actually highlight these people as bullies on the internet, surfers, whatever you want to call them, internet warriors that go on the internet attacking anybody who uses any form of discipline in any way. We're going to start to highlight them and build a portfolio of people who just go out of their way with nothing better to do than slag other people off for their way of thinking. If it's within the law of this land, then we have a right to train the way we see fit, right? And I can tell you that I've used discipline, I've taught discipline, and I've never been prosecuted and found guilty. I've been investigated through slander and lies, but when they looked at the real evidence of the full videos, they can see no dogs were harmed, no dogs were in distress, and guess what? The dogs learned from it. And that's the only way we're going to get this across to everybody in the dog training world about when to use discipline and how to use discipline. If we do not stand up and talk about these situations, and this is what these positive people can't do. They can talk, but they can't show the videos, right? We can talk and show the videos and show that discipline works. That's our one way out of this, that if we're going to ever stand a chance of carrying on training the way we see fit, then we have to stand up, stand together, and support each other in a way that, I'm not talking about supporting people who you don't like. I'm talking about support people you do like who use correction, if that's what you like. If you don't like using correction, don't use correction. It's as simple as that. But to say that we can bring the positive movement together with the balance trainers, as they say, so bring the positive only trainers and balance trainers together, that is never going to happen, because what happened is they got on the bandwagon 20 odd years ago with clicker training and treat training, and everybody thought that was the way to go. And then we got people like Gary Wilkes come out and actually who would tell you, and I think Jamie Penrith was a positive only trainer when he came out of the police force. He thought he'd do it with love and affection. He's such a nice bloke, but guess what? At least he's been honest about it. He's now using the e-collar and fighting for the right to use the e-collar in this country and other countries as well. So you've got to take your hat off to Jamie Penrith. You've got people on there talking about discipline like Danny Wells. You've got Jonas Black. You've got Chris Fraze. You've got people that I follow and I've put people onto that I agree with using discipline. Now, if I don't like someone, I'm not going to promote them. It's as simple as that. But I'm not going to slag them off or attack them to try and make myself more popular or myself more busy. At the end of the day, even poor old Dale McCluskey, I think he had an understanding of dogs at one point. I think he studied and it's screwed his brain up. And unfortunately, he now just rambles and waffles about dog training in such a way that it's it's just so complicated to listen to. And it's not because it's sophisticated and fantastic, it's just psychobabble. And I don't think we're going to get our story across to people if we use psychobabble, if we use the science. We've got to show the videos, we've got to show the evidence. I think Larry Croner's got the following that he's got. I may be wrong, it may be because he's such a good looking guy. But at the end of the day, I think he's got the following he's got because he makes it simple. He keeps it simple. That doesn't mean he can't use other methods. Like Larry's had to take a lot of stick himself because of, they call him the e-collar man because he wrote a book about e-collars, and his book is a fantastic book. And he did it on purpose in that way, in layman's terms, to make it easy for the average person who doesn't want to read a complicated book. If you read books like Gundog Sense and Sensibility by Wilson Stevens, unless you're really into dogs and you're into psychology, you're not going to even understand what he's on about. But once you've done this for 10, 15 years and you've got dogs to a good standing, you have a reasonable understanding, then you then pick that book up and you think, yeah, he's dead right with what he says in there. I can see everything he's saying is dead right. But the most wonderful thing about him was he wasn't a big head. He didn't boast about everything he'd ever achieved. And the book, when I won under him in the Kimpbury Open test, and I won the outright competition, he was judging, and he said, in all the years of watching man and dog work as one, I've never seen one man and his dog work as a team. And I was just so chuffed, not just because of the win, but I was so chuffed because it came from Wilson Stevens. And I went over to him and I said to him, Wilson, I said, coming from a man who wrote what I class as the Gundog Bible, because there's plenty of books out there to train dogs. There was the Irvines, there was there's a number of books out there. But guess what? That book was so in depth. And at 15 years into my training, and I've been successful with a number of dogs, I thought that man book was fantastic. And he said to me, don't embarrass me. And I thought, shit, what have I said now? Me and my big mouth. And I thought, well, I was trying to give you a compliment. And I meant it. I wasn't trying to butter him up. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I get embarrassed every time someone mentions that book, because what I wrote 20 years ago, I'd have never wrote that now. That was one of the biggest learning curves for me to understand. And I'll tell you why, because the more knowledge, the more wisdom, the more you study, the more you learn, the more you become a craftsman at what you do, then you realize, I look back at that book now and I think he was so wrong. But at the time, it was only 15 years into my game of dog training, and I was hungry for knowledge. Erlinson, I used to read Moxton's reports. There used to be some fantastic stuff in the shooting times because they didn't fear speaking the truth. They didn't fear saying what they felt they wanted to say. They may have been wrong. They may have been wrong. And guess what? I think the Shooting Times got sued because of Keith Erlinson, something he said. But the pearls of wisdom that came from people like Keith and Moxton and Irvine, right? Where are they now? Where are they now? Who do we listen to now? Paul Rawlinson. You're having a freaking laugh. Shooting Times. He's just so far up everybody's arse. It's unbelievable. He's a yes man. He's a yes man. Am I being rude about Paul Rawlinson? No, I'm being totally honest. He's a yes man. He's a kennel club man. They feed you on the Shooting Times what they want to feed you. There's no juicy, controversial debates anymore on the Shooting Times because they just tickle you with it because they fear the fact they'll lose customers, they'll lose viewers, they'll lose revenue. It's all about revenue these days. We need to go past the fact of revenue and be honest and open. And I don't buy the Shooting Times anymore, and I don't buy the Sporting Gun, and I don't buy the Countryman's Weekly, because when you look who's writing the articles in there, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. They feed you what they want to feed you. They don't feed you reality. I live in the real world. I deal with proper problem dogs and customers that are pulling their hair out. But guess what? They don't want to get rid of those dogs. They won't get rid of those dogs because they're not like a trial person, a bit sterile, and go, if it's not going to get me to the championship, it's not going to win me a trial, I'm not going to train it. And they sell it down the road. And how many of those dogs do they mess up that you don't see? and they get shifted dog after dog after dog, and then all of a sudden a little bit of luck works out. Because I guarantee you can now, it's pot luck. It's pot luck whether you buy the best of the best pedigrees out there. It's pot luck whether who gets the dog, how the dog's bred, who won with the dog, how did it get the red in its name? Was it an A-panel judge who'd been looked after, or was it a guy on the street who worked his backside off, who was a nobody, climbed up the ranks, became successful, proved himself, his dog's got the title, and the breeding is good breeding, it's proved itself. Without the Kennel Club, without the trialing, it would be the Wild Wild West, wouldn't it? But it doesn't mean we can't criticize trialing and we can't criticize the Kennel Club. We should be able to openly criticize the Kennel Club without a backlash. But trust me, these judges, if you're a B panel or A panel judge, you're panel judge, right? And you are seen to be being negative about the sport, then you will lose your judging. And that is not acceptable, because that is dictatorship. Dictatorship, and it's unacceptable, everyone. You shouldn't be allowed to dictate to people what they can say and what they can do. And that's the problem with the old-fashioned old boys club in the Kennel Club. It needs to be ripped up and start all over again. It needs to be refreshed, revamped, because the Kennel Club is a disgrace. The Kennel Club do not stand up and support us. And yet, the top man of the Kennel Club, I was at one of these good citizens training seminars down in Truro, and he was there standing in the back. It was their baby at the time, the Good Citizens Training Club, and they wanted to get everybody accredited training instructors. Thank you, Michael Brooks, for your pledge on Patreon. Just another member's just joined. I appreciate that. And what I'm saying is that was their baby. They wanted to get everybody accredited as training instructors. And I believed at the time, going back 15, 20 years, it was a great idea when it first started. I believed that we should be accredited as what we've achieved, what we've gained, and we could build a portfolio and show our experiences of our area of expertise and be credited to a score that put you either in the top level, the mid level, or low level. So people would understand that if they were going to you as a trainer and you were only charging them, I don't know, £20 an hour, it was because you were in the lower level. And if you were charging someone £40 an hour, it's because you can accreditate, put it up there that you were a top trainer and you've achieved this of a very high standard, and that you can train to a very high standard, that you've proved yourself. So I did all the portfolio and I stuck with the course for about 5 years, because I believe strongly in that we need to be regulated in the Gundog world, because there's so many people out there on the internet nowadays. It wasn't at the time so much because the internet wasn't that new, but nowadays it's even more relevant because there's so much bullshit fed on the internet with these people calling themselves Gundog trainers, and they've got their name and the name of their Gundogs, when in fact they're working people. They've got a full-time job and they do it for pin money, and they're misleading people and they're feeding them so much shit and ruining their dogs. It's unbelievable. If I expose those people, it would become such a massive following on the internet, but I would be hated by so many because there's so many out there doing it. I'm not against people helping other people. I'm against people taking money off people and totally fucking up their dogs. Let's cut the crap. Fucking up their dogs. That's what they do. And I see it so many times, and I hear so many stories, and people come here and they're more or less in tears sometimes that they've been misled for 2 years and paid somebody for 2 years to train their dog, and they can't get the basics into the dog. And the dog is mentally messed up. And people saying to me like, oh, they told me don't worry about the retrieving, just concentrate on the hunting if it won't retrieve, because he worked on the retrieving for 6 months and the retrieving didn't happen. So they said, oh, don't worry about the retrieving, just carry on with your hunting. And then the dog takes over. You've got no control, because the retrieving is part and parcel of training your dog. It's all part and parcel of training your dog. It's getting the conditioning into your dog, getting the discipline into your dog. But if you put the discipline into your dog and flatten the dog, the same as if you're just an obedience trainer, it doesn't matter that you flatten the dog to a certain extent. But at least now they're beginning to realize in competition in America that a dog that is flattened isn't a good dog. So they're now not awarding awards for dogs that are flattened. They're looking for that dog with drive, desire, and control. That's what it's about, everyone. That's what it's about. And where did that come from? It came from our side, the sports side. So all these people who sit at home on their settee giving out advice on the internet, whether you're a Gundog trainer or a dog trainer, giving out shite advice, right? And people are listening to them, and they're joining these forums and they're putting up pretty pictures, and we can't win because it's so one-sided, as the majority of people are into loves and kisses, stroking their dog, treating it like a fur baby. And there's masses of them on the internet putting up picture after picture after picture, right? So we're in a minority, right? But that minority needs to stick together and form an association to say, fuck you. That's what we need to do. Not in a nasty way, but be straightforward and say, we are here to train our dogs the way we see fit. And you haven't got a right to interfere in our lives like we don't interfere in your lives. Go away. You have a right to tell someone to go away. That was another part of the court case that I won. I have the right to tell someone to fuck off if they are going out of their way to ruin my life and ruin my business. I haven't a right to be aggressive and threatening, but I have a right to use language that I see fit, right? And sometimes I am direct. So I'm not going to be an ambassador for the sport. But what you're going to get with me is the truth. You've put me on a panel, and I've been on committees, and the people on the committees that have seen me there and know me will say I can back that. One thing Chris didn't do is didn't fear talking about subjects that other people feared. He didn't feel that he needed to shut up when someone was bullying someone. He would stand up and say, hang on, that person's not here to defend themselves. Why are you slagging them off? Because they don't know you're slagging them off. You've not given them a right to defend themselves. This is not the way to deal at a committee. Committees should be open. It should be in the minutes. And if anybody's not happy with what's being said at a committee, it should be able to address with the person who's being slagged off. But it's old-fashioned. It's barbaric. It's old school. It's rubbish. It's not a democracy. It's a dictatorship. If someone doesn't want you in the committee, on the club, on the committee, they only have to say, I've had fallout with this person. This person's not an honest person. You'll not get on the committee. You'll not get on the club, not the committee, the club. You won't get a run. You won't become a member. And I've seen that over a number of years by that Chris Thurston Warner, the bully from the Southwest. People don't realize what a bully he was. And there was plenty of committee members on there who sucked up to him because he was an 8-panel judge, but they were scared of him. They feared him because of his bullying techniques, his bullying ways. He was rude to his missus. He was, but she just smiled. She laughed it off. Like, he doesn't really mean it, Chris. Yes, he did. He was a nasty, horrible man. A nasty, horrible man. And they let him judge the championship last year. Why did they let him judge the championship? Because it's how many fingers you've got in the pies. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. It's how many fingers, what you can give for the sport for each other. And so the elitists look after each other in such a way that I can say it. Why can I say it? Because I'm out the sport. If I was saying it publicly and I was in the sport, I'd get nobbled after trial after trial after trial. Now, that's coming from someone who's been successful. If I'd never been successful and I was saying that, they could say, hang on, that guy never won anything. That guy couldn't train a dog to save his freaking life. They can't say that. They can't say that because I did. I was very, very successful. My success rate at trials was very, very high for a 10-year period. And I won with 7 dogs in 10 years, winning tests and trials. So you've got somebody here who's been there, done it, and read the book, right? But then he's rolled up his sleeves to rebuild his business after being slagged off by the trial world, slagged off by the fur baby world, and he's put his head above the parapet and put the videos out there for everyone to see. We're now back up to 1,350 subscribers in 7 months because I got wiped out completely because of YouTube and Peter Kane, like I was explaining. We're back up to, we've gone over to Patreon, and that's where I'm putting my videos now, my training videos over on Patreon. And my training videos are over on Patreon, and we've got subscribers over there, and it's £5 a month plus VAT and their admin fee. So it's £6 a month it costs you. And there's going to be thousands and thousands of training videos that you can index on there and learn how to train a dog to a very high standard. I'm setting a goal for everybody out there to achieve a better standard of dog. And that's what my aim is. It's not to promote myself and make myself mega rich. I'm happy with what I do. I'm being paid. If you don't want to come in, don't come in. Don't pay the £6. But I get so many emails and good feedback saying, I really miss your YouTube site. If you really missed it, you come over to Patreon. It's as simple as that. But I don't beg. I don't need to beg. If I only had 200 people on Patreon that were genuine, I'd rather have those 200. Now, to make it pay, I've got to have 300 plus, and we're very nearly there. I'm the most watched paid trainer, Gundog trainer on the internet. I mean, I'm not going to mention names, but there's another so-called professional dog trainer out there that I rate, and he's got a Patreon site. He's got nowhere near the following on Patreon, and yet he gets so much views on Facebook and likes because he sells himself far better than I sell myself. What you see is what you get with me. I'm not going to be the most popular person out there because I don't play PC games with people. I say it the way it is. I don't mean to offend. Constructive criticism is part and parcel of what I do. That's why I train the way I train. Anyway, so I just want to say before we start here, we've got people listening to me on YouTube. We've got people listening to me on Facebook and Vimeo. It goes over to Patreon afterwards as well for anybody on there as well. So I'm hitting 3 formats this evening, and I've come on an hour earlier because I want to discuss why we should stick together as a group of people. Even if you don't agree with all my methods, but you agree that discipline is part and parcel of training, if we don't stand together, we're going to lose it. Now, Petco, so good evening to everybody who's coming now on YouTube Live and people on Patreon. It's literally splitting it. Petco in America have now stopped selling e-collars and doing a campaign to ban to get people to stop using e-collars. Now, you could say, hang on, that's not important to us. We haven't got Petco here. We've got every company here that comes across from America. We've got all those big companies. Now, Petco used to sell e-collars. They used to sell Mickey Mouse e-collars made in Hong Kong by Ying Pong Ping Pong, right? Absolute crap. Their trainers are crap. They don't have a clue. They're on minimum wage, and it's all about positive and clicker. You can become a Petco trainer within a few weeks. As simple as that. And you're taking money off people and misleading people, when in fact it's all to do with big business and money. And they've got a massive following from the fur baby, animal lovers societies. So guess what? It's going to affect people in America. People in America were saying at one point, "Oh, it's not going to affect us. It's affecting other countries, and the UK is the next ones to lose the right to use an e-collar and use the right to use correction." And they're trying to bring this in. So you've got the RSPCA, who are absolutely in pieces at the moment in this country. The RSPCA, they are firing their staff because their staff haven't got a clue. They're firing their staff because of big business is not supporting them. They are firing the staff because it's all to do with money. It's all to do with income. So they'll put up nice adverts of, please help this beautiful little puppy, and they'll put a gun next to the puppy's head and say, this puppy's going to get the bullet if you don't rescue it. It's going to be put down because we haven't got the funding. And people pull on heartstrings and they send them money. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. You've got the cats and dogs homes, you've got the rescue homes, you've got people not willing to use corrections on these dogs, and these dogs not got boomerang dogs. They go backwards and forwards from the rehoming centres because they go into a house where someone sees the dog, oh, and he's lovely, I want to rescue him, I want to give him a lovely life, and then they realise the bad problems he's got, it's not been addressed, and then they said, well, you could only use a positive only trainer, and that doesn't work. So the whole system is so broken because of the ideology that they're trying to sell. And I'm not promoting cruelty in any way. I'm promoting that we have lost the ability to understand that how the 4 quadrants work. And I'm not going to go into the 4 quadrants because half the people on the ear listening are going to go, what the hell's he on about? The dog trainers of any decent standard will understand completely what the 4 quadrants are. And if you're only using 2 of them, guess what? You're in trouble. You're in trouble because you've got to use all 4. But even if you were explained about the quadrants and you're a decent trainer and you're using a balanced approach, as they would say, you would automatically be using the 4 quadrants without even knowing about it. So I'm not going to be here going into that. There's plenty of trainers out there who want to give you that. What I'm saying is you need to get out there and educate yourself. The only way to educate yourself is to put up the work on the internet for people to see. Show me the work of these positive only trainers that talk such shite. Show me their videos. Show me their following because of that. It's the same as Zach George. Zach George has got a massive following from the Snowflake Society, but he hasn't got a massive following from the dog training society, dog training guilds, or the dog trainers, whether it's positive trainers or balanced trainers. It's like Cesar Millan. When Cesar Millan first came on the, is it National Geological Channel, years and years and years ago, I called Sue in one day and said, Sue, look here, this guy trains exactly like I do. Look, he does so many things that I do. He's from Mexico and he trains in America. And I was amazed that he was using just basic natural ability to tap in and control the dogs. He was showing leadership, correction. And I thought, wow, there is somebody out there who uses correction like me. Because I've moved away from just the gun dogs. And I don't mean I'm training pet dogs. I don't train pet dogs. I specialize in gun dogs. But what I'm saying is I started seeing someone talking about leadership, pack leadership, where everyone else is going, oh no, there's no such thing as pack leadership. Dogs aren't wolves. And I'm like, well, hang on, I'm dyslexic here, but I'll tell you what, it's amazing how they act like a pack when they're puppies, and you study them and you watch them and you evaluate them and you learn that the hardest one in the pack as a puppy at 8 weeks old don't mean it's going to be the hardest one when it's 16 weeks old if you keep them together, because the pack environment changes, because the one who gets bullied on a regular basis and he sits in the back and he's not very happy, all of a sudden he fights back. Then all of a sudden he realizes that's the way to deal with it. Sometimes you have to stand up to a bully. And that's exactly the same as us humans. If you have to cower from a bully like Thurston Warnoff, a panel judge down in Cornwall, and you fear him, then he gets more powerful. When you stand up to him, he then realizes his power is not so powerful, because when someone offers you to take you outside and give you an hiding at a committee meeting, do you want to take it outside? He said to me. And I went, if you really need to, but you're a bit silly, aren't you? Being a shotgun license holder and you want to go out on the pavement and have a fight. But guess what? I said at the committee, all I want was an apology. Perhaps his mouth ran away from himself. I was asked a quite reasonable question and I answered it. And he says, bring it on. Let's take it outside. I says, if you really want to, take it outside. But guess what happens when you do that with a bully? Sometimes the bully backs down, because sometimes you have to stand up to a bully. And that's exactly the same situation with a dog. If you've got a bolshy dog that has learnt to rule the roost, sometimes you've got to stand up to that bully and show him that you don't fear him. And if he wants to take you on, then you'll stand your ground. And then that bully sort of just disintegrates into the background and goes, oh, I've never been faced like that before. That doesn't mean you've got to get into a fight with that dog. But if you do get into a fight with some of them dogs and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get yourself hurt and you're going to get other people hurt, because by suppressing it, by frying it on an e-collar at full level and not knowing how to use an e-collar, you're going to cause a bigger problem than you can imagine. And you're going to cause underlying problems that will come back and bite people on the arse. So the whole idea is it's about education, everyone. Education. And if we don't educate, then we're in real trouble, aren't we? We're in real trouble. And that's where we're going. We're going down that road where we're going to lose any right to use correction in any way. Now, the police will use a taser, or they'll use a baton, or they'll use mace to stop crowd behavior. They don't ask questions and then use it. They'll use it when they feel fit, and they'll use it on the football lads, or they'll use it on certain groups, and yet other groups, they'll bow down on one knee and say, I support you. At the end of the day, society has become so judgmental, and we've become accustomed to being whingers of everything in life. Whingers that you're not happy with the weather, you're not happy with the way that man looked, you're not happy the way that man drove, that man's not wearing a seatbelt, I'm going to report him, that man was speeding 32 mile an hour in a 30 mile an hour zone. Jesus Christ, I mean, where haven't you got better things to do in life than drip and moan about everything and anything except yourself? Because none of us are perfect, are we? And that's the point. Patreon, fantastic website, love it. Can you send a link to sign up, please? Thank you, John Crutch. Honesty is the best policy. People don't like honesty. Patreon is good, is a godsend. You know, these are the messages that, you know, I'm that busy, I don't read them out. But with the following that I've got, I really, really appreciate the feedback I get from people. It's to me, it's not about promoting me, and that's what I liked about what Larry said. He said he's not the top man in his game. He admits it, but he's learned from the top people, and he's put it out there. That's what he's done. He's put it out there on the media for people to learn. That you cannot take away from Larry. You can only credit Larry for that. Jamie Penrith has been fighting, and I don't think Jamie likes criticism. He said it doesn't bother him. I do think it bothers him, because he then sinks back into the background and does his work. But what people don't realize, unless we talk about Jamie and the amount of work he puts in to try and fight for the right to use the tools that we see fit, then where we can't stand back later and go, well, you're on your own, if we can't support each other. I've stood next to Jamie in London on the march. McCluskey, the idiot, said, oh, that's not going to change nothing. Well, that's all right saying it's not going to change nothing. Let's not do anything then, and we'll all lose the tools. We'll all use the method. We'll use the methods of training that we use. We won't have the right to train a dog the way we see fit. We won't have a right to bring up a child the way we see fit, right? At the end of the day, we're being dictated to. I thought we were liberals and we didn't want to be ruled, but guess what? We are being. They are dictating to us, and I do not like to be dictated to by anybody unless I'm naked. As simple as that. Unless I'm naked. And I was nearly naked the other week. I try to use humor. I try to use honest, constructive criticism. And without these clients that are willing for me to put up this, then it would not be the site it is. And we got to thank those people. We got to thank those people who have come along, trusted me, let me do video footage of them, let them see their faults, let me show them how to correct their dogs, and then we put it up and we show people. We don't show all the discipline, but we talk about discipline. We talk about correction. And the following that I've got on Patreon is a group of people that support each other. They don't just support me, they support each other. Now, I used to have a far bigger following on YouTube, but that was because it was free. I didn't monetize my site. And that's what really cheesed me off about when they took the channel down, because they said copyright. That Peter Kane said I was making money out of his videos. No, I wasn't. It wasn't monetized. I wasn't paid a penny in the 7 years that I put up 5,500 videos and got 3.5 million views. Everyone asks me on a yearly basis, why don't you monetize it? Why don't you monetize it? Even YouTube asked me to monetize it. If I had monetized it, they wouldn't have taken me down, because I would be making them money and it would be such a following. But because it wasn't monetized and it was getting higher views than people who were monetized, it was taking views and money away from Patreon, from YouTube. So YouTube decided that infringement laws, you've broken copyright by putting up someone's videos without them giving you permission. When I actually got the evidence about that, and I showed YouTube, and guess what? YouTube is a big business. They're not interested. The rules are the rules, and I can't get my videos back. 5,500 videos, 5 years to make and put up, 4 hours a day without fail on the internet, making those videos, because I wanted to leave a legacy to show how we train dogs, you know, 90 for that period of time in time. So it was left there as a reference material for people in 30, 40 years time, if there is still dog training, for people to see that that's how they used to train in them days. And this guy stood by what he believed in. We have not got that history behind us because people feared bringing it, talking about it in books. They scruffed around it a little bit, and it was, discipline was like one short paragraph, and it was not really explained very well, in my opinion, of all the books I've ever read. And I wanted to do a book on discipline and how to use discipline, how to get the best out of the dog. And then it turned into a book of my life as in the dog training world and how I achieved what I achieved and the knowledge and the understanding. And then it turned bitter with the trial world. And when I'm angry, I write angry. And then I read it 10 years on and I thought, I'm not as bitter and angry as I was then. So I deactivated a lot of those paragraphs and then went off to the publishers, and they said, you can't put that in, you can't have that, you can't have that. And it was trying to raping the whole story, if you know what I mean. And so I've had to go back to it and back to it. And because I am dyslexic, it's a 2-volume book now. But what I've done is I've moved on to the internet, and we have the media platforms now. You have this, and there's so many people on the internet talking about dog training that, you know, you get a headache if you watch everybody. I totally understand that. But wouldn't it be wonderful in the dog training world if dog trainers who have been successful could come forward and be honest, even if they're only honest about me and say, well, hang on, Chris Upton's right, we use discipline. I'm not going to talk about what I do or what I've done, but yes, we use discipline. It's part and parcel of dog training. But guess what? Some of the magazines now are starting to talk about it. Are they talking about it because they've seen how successful I've become on the internet? Okay, I'm starting all over again with the YouTube, but I'm not monetizing YouTube. I don't want people to see advert after advert. When you come over to Patreon, you can watch the video in its entirety. You're not looking for adverts. Patreon have just offered me a merchandise package that you can have t-shirts and cups and badges, and I can sell stuff on there and they'll take a percentage. It's not all about that. I advertise Ray's leather leads and Ray's stuff because his stuff is quality, and the stuff he makes is quality. And I ordered some cups myself and I give them away as prizes, and we give away squirrel skin, and we try and make it an entertainment evening on a Wednesday. We try and let people have a laugh as well as a serious side to the training. But Patreon is for people who have got an open mind and are like-minded, and don't come on Patreon if you're only a positive only trainer and you're not willing to open your eyes. As simple as that. If you're not willing to open your eyes and look at other people's way of training. But I still believe we still need to put stuff up on YouTube for the world to see as well, because it's a bigger, it get more following on YouTube. So I've got to build the YouTube site again. But for the first 2 years, it was very, very slow, the YouTube site. After 4 years, it took off like unbelievable. It was like a wild horse, out of control. We were getting 1,000 views on the videos in a day when you put a video up. We were getting so much good feedback. It was unbelievable. What we'd done, we'd shoved all the fur baby people and all the snowflake people and the haters back under the stones they come from, because we'd built a following. We'd built a following, not for myself, but for you guys. A following so people could understand that just because you use discipline and use correction doesn't mean you don't care for your dogs. These people that I deal with now, these Gundog enthusiasts, these shooting people who've got Gundogs, they're a far nicer bunch of people than the trial world in general, because a lot of the trial world are so mercenary with what they want to achieve. The dog doesn't come first. Where how many times have you seen on the videos over the years where I've said to someone, do you want to sell that dog? No, it's not for sale. What if I give you 2,000? No way. What if I give you 10,000? No. What if I give you 50,000? No. Isn't it wonderful that people have got that mindset, and yet they're still willing to come to me for disciplining their dog? Now, what happens if you send me a dog and I start training it, and some, touch wood, it's never happened, that something drastic happens with it and the dog gets killed, and you think it's worth £1 million? Is that scary? It is scary for me. But guess what? I've been doing it for so long. When I take somebody's dog in, and I've got insurance, I've got liability insurance, But guess what? Liability insurance will only pay out so much. If I've made an effort to not put that dog in danger and something unfortunately happens in an accident, then no one's going to pay out £1 million. Nobody's going to pay out £1 million. So, you know, when you give me your dog, you give me your trust. And that's what people don't understand. People give me their trust with their dog. And, you know, I don't want to tempt fate. And I keep touching wood because I you know, but at the end of the day, the only problem we've ever had is we put a dog in a rabbit pen once as a 12-month-old dog to chase in a rabbit pen. And it was wet. And it ran around the rabbit pen and slipped. And it dislocated its joint in it. And we had to race it to the vet screaming. It went into shock eventually and stopped screaming, but we raced it to the vets and they said they'll have to toggle it, and it was going to cost £1,500. And they x-rayed it and said there's no joint there. There's no actual hip socket on the actual leg. And so I said to the owner, listen, I feel absolutely terrible, but it wasn't my fault. And I spoke to my insurance company and they won't pay out on that because of what the vet's x-rays show. But the only thing I can do is offer to keep the dog here for 6 months. And well, it's being hospitalized because I've got a kennel special. I can put the dog in a kennel here so it's not moving and look after it there. And we'll train it again, but I can't guarantee it's not going to happen again. And the vet said it won't happen again because we'll toggle it. Guess what? The toggle broke off. Once they had the dog trained by me, it was okay. Went back to them, and within 3 months in the field, putting that dog under pressure, the toggle broke, and they had to spend another £1,500. That was £3,000. We're talking about going back 20 odd years. 20 odd years. We put these dogs under extreme situations, but we have a care of duty for them. We have a husbandry situation that, you know, we groom them, we make sure they're healthy, we take them to the vets when we need to take them to the vets. Just because we use discipline does not mean we're cruel with these dogs. You know, I've cried like a baby when I've had dogs die, you know, of old age. And at the end of the day, there's nothing worse than losing your companion that you spent years and years of training, and you've built such a close bond that you work as a team together. People wouldn't realize that. A pet's a pet, and I totally understand the love and affection that people have. And I'm not slagging pet people off. I'm not slagging fur baby people off who don't attack us. But those ones that attack us because they don't think that what we do is acceptable, you know, why can't you live and let live? Why can't you live and let live? Get on with your lives and let us get on with ours. That's what it's about, everyone. It's about educating people. Anyway, so many questions on here. It's unbelievable. Lorraine, if you've joined Patreon and you ain't happy after the first month, generally you get your money. Generally pay your money back. That's a promise. Exactly. I promise people that if you come over to Patreon and you spend a month over Patreon and you're not happy with Patreon, I will give you your £5 back. Simple as that. Why? Because it's not just the money. I've got to earn a living, and I'm spending more time on the internet now than I ever have. But I keep it on Patreon about what I believe in, how I train, why I train, and the clients are on Patreon. That way they don't have to take no stick from idiots out there, or I have to delete comments from idiots out there, because that's what we were having to do on YouTube. YouTube became a platform where idiots would come on and make silly comments. Not as much as they did when it first kicked off, but because we set up a group. And so on a Wednesday night, we'd have a live feed on a Wednesday night on YouTube, and we'd have moderators, so the moderators could wipe out any idiots talking rubbish. Because why come on there if you're not interested? It was a social evening, it was answers and questions, and we do that on a Sunday night on Patreon. We do that for 2 hours on a Sunday night just for Patreon customers. And I thank my moderators, and I thank the team of people who supported me, and all the people who've come here. You're the film stars. You're the ones who've made this channel. You're the ones who've set a precedent in the dog training world, especially the gun dog training world, by saying, yes, put up my videos, Chris. Show people how I've got it wrong, how I'm not doing it right, and show me how to get it right. Because it's all about results, isn't it, everyone? It's all about results. And that's what we're here for. We're here to get results. Now, Sue's not here, my right-hand man or my right-hand woman. And as you all know, she helps me so much on a Wednesday night. She's at work and she's working late. So I am on my own and I'm watching three screens. I'm multitasking, everybody. There's so many of you who feed wonderful comments on Patreon. I'd rather deal with 300 people who want to be there for the right reason than deal with thousands of people who can't be even bothered to get involved in the situation, the chat, the debate. We don't have to agree to agree. We can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, with the right people in the right group, and there's no bitching and nastiness, that's a wonderful situation to be, because it's dead simple. If people come over to Patreon and they're being offensive or rude, you have a right to give your opinion. We'll just press the button and you're gone. Where YouTube, I just get rid of those people as well, because I've learned that there's no point in arguing with people who've got no interest in the real desire to dog train. That's what it's about, dog training. And if you haven't got the desire to listen and debate, I'll debate with anybody about dog training. I'd even debate with Dale McCluskey, right? At the end of the day, Dale McCluskey will not debate with anyone like me because he fears to be made look stupid, because he can waffle as much as he wants about his method of training. I say, show me. And what I've seen of his training, and he's not a gun dog trainer, he's a dog trainer, and he's in America, but he's slagging off people in the UK. Why does he need to slag people off in the UK? Why can't he just get out there and put up his own videos of how he trains dogs? And then he complains when people attack him. And I think the only way that we're going to win this fight is we expose these people who go out of their way to rubbish other trainers for no good justification. There's a difference between not liking someone's methods but not talking about it because you don't want to be seen to be bitching about them and having a cat fight on the internet. And there's a difference between promoting a trainer, and I think that's where we're going wrong in our groups of people we follow. You know, we should be able to agree to disagree. It's simple. You know, there's nothing wrong with good debate. Some people would love a good debate. I'd have a debate with anybody, but they won't, because they fear losing the debate. Why fear losing the debate? You know, that's what a lot of the internet, YouTube has become so popular because of, you're getting debate on YouTube. Some people don't like debate. Some people think, oh, I don't want to listen to debate, but I enjoy it. I enjoy whether it's politics, whether it's on psychology, whether it's on gun dogs, a number of different issues I listen to. Larry Crone was doing it about, he was interviewing black dog trainers from in America and asking them how different it is for them compared to, you know, white trainers. You know, it was interesting to listen to a certain extent. Did I agree with all of it? No. But did I listen to it? Yes. Because you see it in a different perspective. You know, you don't think about, if you go into an area and you get out your van, does everyone look at you because you're black? Because I'm white. I don't get that problem. But people look at me because I'm fat. You know, people have slagged me off because I'm not intellectually got skills, because I'm dyslexic. They've taken the mickey out of my spelling. They've taken the mickey out of my things I say. Guess what? Don't put your head above the parapet if you're not prepared to be shot at. It's simple as that. But I give it in layman's terms because I think in a simple way. And sometimes, is that not the easier way for Joe Public to understand? In layman's terms, say it the way it is. Stop trying to be something you're not. Now, some people are intelligent, but other people can't understand them. But I mean, going back to Gary Wilkes, some of the stuff that Gary Wilkes writes, I just sit back and understand exactly what he's saying, and I think, oh, I wish I could write like that. I wish I had that brain that thinks that way. And some people will say to me, no, I like the way you are, Chris. I like the way you're straightforward and say it where it is and you don't beat around the bush. So you're not going to please everybody being the person you are, but why change just to gain more customers? You can only train so many customers anyway, can't you? you want to see my calendar? It's so full. I want to thank those snowflakes out there for giving me a platform to decide to come back and fight back and stand up for what I believe in. Because without those snowflakes kicking off, Chris Upton will just be this little fat dog trainer down in sunny Cornwall no one knows of, because he doesn't need to advertise himself. Why? Because he pulls in enough business without advertising himself. So what's this done by going onto the media? It's made me more popular. It's made me more busy. It's given me more of a following. But did I do it for that? No, I didn't. I did it for the fact that I think we have a right to stand up and train the way we see fit. And as long as we're not cruel, then we have a right to talk about it. We have a right to show it. And you could have the same argument. You get a lot of the people in the shooting world in this country, not in America so much, in this country going, hang on, I know we shoot, but people don't like shooting, so we shouldn't talk about it. If we don't talk about it, you'll lose it. As simple as that, because the economy is in a mess, and they couldn't afford to lose the money that goes into sporting shooting and the country way. Farmers, the income that farmers get, the income that landowners get, it's a massive industry, but we're not clever enough. We don't use it as a group and stand together where we should. We get picked off one at a time, and we let people pick us off. We should stand together. BASC learned a lesson when they tried to discredit me. A load of people from BASC members stood up and supported me and said, hang on, this guy's not beating dogs. This guy's disciplined a dog. And these lot coming in here giving it shit. And there was a massive 4 or 5 day attack on one of their groups, BASC. And in the end, they pulled the plug on it because people were becoming so triggered. Yeah, the language was becoming disgraceful. And I kept saying, calm down, everyone. Calm down. We can debate this. But no, guess what? Who becomes the most triggered out of all of them? The snowflakes. The snowflakes who came into BASC and thought they'd rubbish a Gundog trainer, a person who shoots, when they didn't realize that the backing that I had was far outweighed the snowflakes, the 40 or 50 of them that came in slagging me off on BASC. Because what they did, they then asked their friends to come in there, and their friends came in there and started slagging me off, and then they were being attacked by genuine shooting people and genuine dog trainers and genuine dog people, country people, and country people fired back and went, fuck off, get out. And guess what? They then got so embarrassed they left, and they left with their tail between their legs. And then this stupid woman in Scotland said, I can't believe that the BASC are now accepting his videos and letting him make speeches. But guess what? Because they realized they'd messed up, because they could be done for libel, they brought the thing to a close instead of letting me defend my good name. Because you can make allegations about somebody on the internet, but if you've not been prosecuted or you've not been found guilty of something, then you can make as many allegations as you like, but it's unproven. And this is the problem. You can be done for libel, but guess what? A libel case is £20,000. Who's going to throw £20,000 at some fruit bat in Scotland who's got nothing better to do than other rant on everybody's forum about using discipline, and discipline's not acceptable, and you can train dogs with love and affection because Julian Clary told her she could, and Graham Norton, and what's the other one? Who's the other one? The Irish guy leans against a lamppost. Hey, should we give a squirrel skin for this? Who? What's his name? The Irish guy. Come on, someone must tell me on here. The comedian. He's quite funny. Used to do the game shows. Grey hair. Well, come on. Let's have his name. Someone must have him up here. Come on. He does all these dog shows, doesn't he? Must have it on here. Anyway, that's I think Chris Upton been ranting a little bit, hasn't he, tonight? And it's been a little bit different. And it's only 8:30. So I've got so many people with questions and answers on it. It's going to take me ages, but I'll just flick up through and see if I can see anything on here. No booze, Chris, on shift night. Well, you have to behave yourself there, Bill. Looking sharp, Chris. Stephen Robinson, thank you very much. Evening, David Jones. Did Sue have company? You're looking sharp. Good to see you. You're keen tonight, Chris. Good evening, Steve Pace. Good evening, Chris. The pup video you put up today was along the lines of what I was looking for with previous pup questions. That's why I put it up, Andrew, because you asked those questions. I thought, there you go. That might give you an idea. Don't rush the dog. Don't rush the dog. It's really important. Let them develop. Let them grow up. Like I say, you don't send a kid to nursery school, do you, and start dictating to it and slapping it into order. Kevin, good evening. Andy said, good evening. You're early tonight, yeah. But now people could say, well, why am I dressed up like this? Because I've had a very high level training session with a customer and a keeper and shot over his dog today. And we came back, we had an afternoon session and it was really good fun. He paid for it. I just went along and gave the advice. Unfortunately, it doesn't want to be on video, but we had a lovely afternoon and we shot 10 head of game. But it was training. It was training as well as working the dog. And it was great fun. So it would be a shame. I mean, I was hoping he'd let us video it and be able to put it up, but he didn't want to be on. He's quite a well-known person, not a film star, but quite a lot of people would know him from the Southwest. There's no such thing as a positive only training. Even using a collar or harness is a negative in some way. Exactly, and he's not talking about an e-collar. He's talking about a collar. Evening, we work to get the best out of them. That's it, Karen says. David Jones, Chris, you are the most balanced, even trainer I've found on the internet, and without your help, videos, and guidance, I would not be at the level I am with my Gundog. Thank you. David Jones is a Welsh boy, and on Patreon you can see his dog and what a wonderful dog he's got. I put it on YouTube just to show people, I think, or was it Facebook, just to show clips of it. But it just shows, some people say by watching people on the internet you can't train a dog. I disagree. By watching somebody on the internet putting up as many videos as I have over the years, it gives you a good insight into how to train a dog. And Dave has got a fantastic dog there, and he should be so proud of himself. It's wonderful. Richard Garrett, with my 2-year-old labs, I wouldn't have known where to start without Chris and his videos. Now, even if I say it to myself, they're a credit to me. Thanks only for Chris and his videos. That's so nice, Richard. Thank you very much indeed. And that's why I've asked you people to put up comments if you've watched my videos and gained from watching those videos and gained knowledge and understanding. It doesn't mean you've had to copy everything to 100%, but as it give you guidance, as it give you leadership, as it showed you that how correction works. This is what this is about tonight. This is not about the Chris Upton show. This is not about I want to boost my ego or I want to boost my following. What I think is we need to form a group of people who support each other in this fight against this unbiased ideology that is false, that you can train a dog with love and affection only. If that was the case, why is there so many dogs being put down? Why is there so many dogs being moved from one home to another home? Why is there so many dogs still in pet rescues, as they say, that can't leave the pet rescue because they're not suitable for anybody, can't have children, can't go outside? What's crueler? A dog that is chained up inside your house, living on your couch, and you're having to put nappy pads on it, pants on it, because you can't take it out because it's aggressive, it's threatening, it's scared. Where are we going with dogs? This is the problem. Your Flex Megian, your videos and methods of training have been a rock for me, and as I muddle my way through training my spaniel. Just try not to give commands with a Cornish accent. Good on you, boy. Well done. Thank you for that. I'm just flicking up through some of these. Kieran says, I was out today and saw a man training a sheepdog with about 6 sheep in a field. I stopped and watched for 20 minutes and then a really good chap. He was a nice, genuine chap. Do you know what, Kieran? That's about it. That's about it. Dog people are dog people. It doesn't matter what sport you're into, whether it's sheepdog handling, whether it's agility, even fly ball and and a number of other things. If you like watching dogs work and you watch dogs work with enthusiasm and keenness, there's nothing finer. I mean, I've trained a few sheepdog in my time. That's where I started off when I first started off. Chris, you once sent me a link for Ray's leads. Could I have it again or his phone number? Thanks, mate. I will try and do that Springer Commander for you, no problem. If we did not have trialing, would breed lines and spaniels be as good, e.g. whiter dogs and no colour? I think that dogs would be, spaniels would look more old-fashioned, stamp of the more liver in them than the white. I think with trialing, there's been a lot more sort of whiter dogs introduced into trialing. But like I said, is a good dog a bad colour? At the end of the day, I personally like a dog with a dark head, and I like more colour in the dog, more liver or more black and white. If it's black and white, more black than the white. But I do like the fleck in the dogs as well. So it's a matter of choice, isn't it? A matter of choice. Robert Jeffrey, all big business is the same. It's about the bottom line. So if you step out of, they could come down on you. Exactly. And that's the problem with we talk about Petco, and we talk about we've got American companies over here now where you go in and you ask a question and the staff are young kids and they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. They wouldn't have a clue on so much of the stuff they sell. But that's society, isn't it? Because they're working on minimum wage and they haven't got the expertise. Where years ago you used to go into a shop or an order a part or want some information about a camera, and the people in the shop knew what they were talking about. These days it's all about sales, isn't it? It's all about internet, buy it and then work it out how it works. Petco should be exposed for the crap training they do, and the fact that they were selling Mickey Mouse collars that were not were so damaging for dogs. Mickey Mouse cheap collars, not the top quality collars that we as professional trainers we talk about, but the Mickey Mouse rubbish. And so what's happening, you've got these pet shops now that are opening up, Pets Are Us and all this sort of stuff in this country, and they've all come across from America, really. If you think about it, when I first went to America and you went into the malls and we didn't have them in this country, and now we've got them. Every shop, you go into every town now in this country, and every town has got the same shops, the same big companies. They've taken over the small groups and the companies that used to specialize, and that's why it's just becoming business orientated companies, isn't it? And that's what's happening in the dog training world. They want to rule the world. So if they can sell you Skinners, and this is what Skinners do, Skinners will promote the trials because they want everyone to buy Skinners. And there was an A-panel judge down here, and we were buying the food in, and a top A-panel judge up country said, hey, you don't want to be buying that at that price. He said, you want to be buying this. We get this from Ireland. I might be giving it away a little bit. And so we started buying a food called Turbo Feed, and it was £10 a bag. And the dogs were really, really good on it. And it was great food. It was VAT free because it was more or less sold as greyhound food. And because that person I'm talking about was into greyhounds, a lot of us were buying the food from him through other people, and we weren't buying it from Skinners or Eukanuba. And at the end of the day, it's all to do with big profit. And an A-panel judge down here who didn't like my success, he was a dominant A-panel judge, not Thurston Warner, and I started selling food, and he heard about it, and I was selling it by the van load. As soon as I get it down, the boys were coming around buying 6 bags of it because they were paying £20 a bag, and they get this food at £10 a bag that was superior, but it was called Turbo Feed. Come across from Ireland. And he found out about it, went to a trial, hunting my dog. He was shooting, hunting my dog, up gets a bird. Dog went in, absolutely fantastic contact flush. Up gets the bird, dog watches it away. I thought, yes, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it. And he never shot. I looked across at this A-panel judge. The judge looked across at this A-panel judge and said, that would have done you. He said, why didn't he shoot it? I said, you best ask him that. And do you know what he said? What dog food? That's all he said. What dog food? That's how blatant he was. Because I was selling dog food and taking money from him, and he was the Skinner's rep, he turned me over at a trial because of the business he was losing. How about that? Is that all gentlemanly and honest in this sport? No, it's not. But because I talk about it, it doesn't make me the most popular person in the trial world anymore. But we've moved on from the trial world. Looked up the quadrants after you mentioned the concept earlier, and I think you do negative reinforcement, positive punishment with minimal force, and we find out when we start to train with pup. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, Christopher Duval says Patreon is an awesome place to learn and improve us all. Great viewing and a lot of content. And I want to thank Chris Duval, because people like Chris Duval who put up comments and encourage people, and it's part and parcel of being part of a group that everybody is helping everybody else. And it's, if it's anything said, it's constructive. It means to be constructive, and there's so much positive going out there to help other people and say thank you for putting up your videos. Without people like Chris, without people like Robert Jeffrey, Simon Spruce, and people like that, Karen Evans, and people, Stephen Webb, Richard Greer, that site, Patreon, would not be what it is. You make the site, the members make the site. I'm just the captain of the ship. I'm steering the ship in the direction that you want to go in. And that's what it's about. We talk about the subjects that you want to talk about, and that's what we're on there for. Now, I can't read through all this, but I can't see that many real negative comments. There may be negative comments. I'm not worried about them. What I'm saying is, before we'd be attacked like crazy, but they've got so many people on here making nice comments. William George, some of the videos you've put up from guys who have only learnt from your videos is a huge testament to you and your dogs. Dogs are full of drive and control. That's William George Webb said that. And that's what it's about, everyone. That's what it's about. George Formby leans on lamppost. I knew there'd be someone. No, I'm Lily Savage. That's the one. Thank you. O'Grady. Lily Savage. That's the one. Paul O'Grady. That's it. Well done, everyone. I don't know who won something there. We'll perhaps send somebody a cup. I keep saying to you, Patreon videos are your book, Chris, and they tell me far more than any written word. This is from Sol. That's a record and a legacy in the making. So thanks for having the balls to show it and how it is, and the standard can be achieved by your methods. And I want to thank Sol on here in front of everybody, because without Sol, I was so down when they took my 5,500 videos off the internet, not feeling sorry for myself, but for the work that I put into it and built such a platform for people to learn from. And to lose that platform of 5 years of solid work that I gave to free to everybody out there on the internet who wanted to watch it, I was just so gutted, and I didn't have the strength to sort of kick myself off. And to be honest with you, I don't get depressed, but I lay in bed for a few days thinking, I don't know if I want to carry on. I don't know if I want to carry on. That Peter Kane will never know how low he made me feel at that point. A fellow dog trainer, that he said that he rated me as a dog trainer, and I put up some fantastic videos, because of jealousy, went out of his way to ruin my YouTube site, because he was losing views because of my popularity that was building up to such an extent. He wanted to remain the most watched dog trainer on the internet. He had 4,500 videos up. I had 5,500 videos, but I was catching him unbelievably. It's like pyramid sales. Once you start off, it starts off really slow, but once it starts to come together, it was getting passed on, and other people saying, watch this, watch this, watch this. And that's how it escalates. It takes a time to escalate, and it's going to take time to build up again. But guess what? I'm building a platform. I'm building a library. I'm building a reference library of how people train their dogs, how we train our dogs, how we get the best from our dogs, how we use discipline. And it's going on to Patreon. And if you want it, you're going to have to pay a small fee of £6 a month. That's not the price of a coffee a week, is it? At the end of the day, it's a gesture that you're interested. And guess what? That money gets plowed back in, because of the equipment that I buy to put up the videos, the quality of the stuff we put up, and the clothes that I've got to wear. Obviously, now I'm becoming a film star. I can't just walk around in a scruffy t-shirt saying bollocks, show me your dog on the back, can I? I've got to start wearing a cravat and acting the part. Nope, I'm not changing. I've always been like this. If I'm in a situation where you're with the keepers that get themselves dressed up when someone goes shooting, and they're paying good money for that shooting, trust me, then you have to dress to that level at the right time. It's to do with respect. When you see people turning up at tests with baseball caps on backwards and scruffy t-shirts, when I was at tests, you had to wear a shirt and a tie. If you didn't wear a shirt and a tie, you were classed as unethical. Is that the word? Unethical? Tramp? Well, anyway, I turned up, my first trial I turned up with army surplus store clothing. Why? Because I didn't know the dress code. It's about educating people, isn't it? Not taking the mickey out of them. Anyway, so we definitely got a mixed amount of people watching. We've still got some of the same faces in there, and I appreciate you for that. And literally, we're going to go in 10 minutes. So if anyone's got any questions, I'm going to flick down to the bottom and see if I can answer them. If anyone's got any questions at all, I appreciate all your comments. There's been so many comments. It's unbelievable, from all formats. I'm sorry for looking around at the different things. I've got an iPad here telling me one thing. I've got a phone telling me another thing. I've got a laptop telling me another thing. And I'm also speaking in about 10-second lag behind on Vimeo that technically it should leave it out there for everyone to see. Denver Skinner, Chris, if you are doing your seminar next year, can I bring my drone and film it and send copies to everyone who wants? Yes, no problem at all. Jay Brooker, 2026 he wants to go to. I don't know what the hell that means. He wants me to go to 2020. Why don't you just say the question again, Jay, please? Because I've got to flick through. I don't know 2026. It doesn't say on here. It just says 8:40, 8:30, 8:37. So I can't. Jay Brooker, hang on. I wonder if he recognizes me. I'll open the boot and tell him to get in, and he'll run off to the kennel. He loves Sonny Cornwall and that fat bloke. How rude you are, Jay Brooker. I was hard on him before. Hang on, here we go. Jay's on here. He's certainly come on and changed and finally starting to grow up. I'm keen to get him back and build on the relationship, and I feel like I can make him even better than what I had before. There you go. Come and get him, Jay. I was hard on him before and suppressed everything about him apart from his character. I've seen how patient I need to be with him and can't wait to give him my best shot and do Chris proud. Come and get him. Come and get him. You can take him forward now. I can show you what to do and come and take him forward. That's the whole point. Sean Raymond, I said it on Patreon today, Chris. The kind, constructive comments from people help so much. Patreon is a fantastic platform. The effort you put in with your clients is phenomenal, and that's important to me, Sean, because you know I've got a sense of humor, and I take the mickey a little bit, and I use it as bringing humor instead of being too direct with people. Yes, I am me. I speak my mind. I say it the way it is. That's me. But I'm not. Nothing's personal. At the end of the day, everybody knows who comes here and spends a day in the caravan or a couple of days in the caravan training with me. You know, we have a social time as well, and it's important because it's a package. I sell a package. I'm not just there. You get your hour and then throw you out down the road and say next. You know, I spread the clients out to give myself a break, so I come back and give my best. And it's important that it's not all about the money. It's not about grabbing money off people. I do it for the dogs. I do it for the enjoyment. I do it because I love it. To get paid to do something you love, I'm such a lucky guy, and I've still got that passion that I had when I started. I was hungry for knowledge and understanding, and without that hunger and that knowledge, and that's why I see people like Kieran, you know, going back 6 months, he was so driven to want to train his dogs. It was great to see, but don't let it destroy you. Don't let that take over your life. That's another thing you must learn, that there's your family come first, You've got to get it in perspective, because you can become obsessed with something. You can become driven to the point that you're neglecting other things in your life. But if you're enjoying yourself and everyone else is enjoying it as well, the trip you're taking, that's the most important thing. Dog training changed my life. Changed me as a person. I became more tolerant. I become less judgmental as I've got older, and yet I still speak my mind. So I want to thank everybody who has tuned in and everybody who's made a comment. And like I said, these comments will be actually taken off here and put up on a we're trying to get a petition, and we're trying to get a group of people who will stand by the fact that they've used discipline, or come to me and use discipline and seen discipline used correctly, or even been told to back off with the discipline and go on to gameplay. But the endorsements that you people give, Keith Downtown, 4 flushes this afternoon, she stopped on 3 of them. To me, that's progress. So many thanks to the training day, Chris. Thank you so much indeed, Keith. That's really nice. It's great news. That's what it's about, guys. That's what it's about. These videos are there to help you. These videos are there to educate you. And eventually, I may just throw them all onto Patreon again, onto YouTube again, eventually, and take the Patreon site down once it's done its job. It's done its job. But I've got to look after the fact that I'm putting so much work into this to build this reference library for people out there. I'd rather give it for free, and this seems crazy, doesn't it? But I've got to earn a living, if you see what I mean. So I'd rather give it for free, but because of the way I'm having to change as a Gundog trainer that's out in the field 24/7, he's having to spend 4 hours a day on the internet. I have to be paid for those 4 hours to make it worth my while. So 4 hours every day, and the videos that I record when customers come here, yes, I'm fortunate enough to get paid for those lessons, but then when I come back, I then spend just as much time going through the videos and editing them and putting them up for you people to see. So that's Chris Upton. I'm explaining why I've made Patreon a group with Soul's help. I've kept it down to minimum amount that I can afford to do it on that lower tier, so it's affordable for everybody. And if it's not worth £6 and you don't find those videos entertaining, then you can come in for 1 month and then come out anytime you want. Patreon have asked me to do yearly subscription, to say to you, pay up front your 60 odd quid or something when it comes to a year, 60 quid a year. And I've refused to do it. Why? Because if you're not happy with it, then you've lost 60 quid. I'd rather you come in each month and pay your money. And if you don't pay, you can't come into Patreon. So you only lose a £5 or 6 quid. If you're not happy, tell me you're not happy. I'll give you your money back. Simple as that. If you're not happy and you come in for a month and you think this is not for you, not a problem. I will give you your money back. How many trainers will do that for you? Anyway, that's Chris Upton. Been on here for 2 hours. Surprised you. We normally come on at 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night. And like I said, I've hit a number of platforms. We've got 65 people on one and only 14 on the other, and 35 on this one, and 52 on that one. So what will happen, technically it should go over to Patreon now and sit on there for people on Patreon as well. So thanks so much for coming in. And we normally finish off with for people who are new on here, let me explain to you. Soul came up with a fantastic t-shirt because I was into the music business, and he came back with a fantastic logo, Never Mind the Bollocks, from the Sex Pistols. Never mind the bollocks, show me your dog. And we use that, and on a Wednesday night, if everyone's had a good time, they just say bollocks. So if you can see a lot of bollocks just appearing at the bottom of this live feed, and I don't know which live feed that is, that's one and that's another one there, you'll see plenty of bollocks. And that doesn't mean they're pissed off and they're not happy. We've got a sense of humor. We used to say that when the snowflakes were attacking us, and they used to think, oh, look how many people are negative against him. But guess what? Who had the last laugh? All these snowflakes have disappeared under their stones, And I say bollocks to the lot of you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support. And see you Sunday on Patreon. Chris Upton signing off. Where do you sign off? Do I sign off on one and they all close? Or do I have to go to each individual one? Let's have a go. I'm going to close it on the main screen on the computer. And by the way, God bless America.